Hello everybody, my name is Richard Stanford and I will be lecturing for these next 4 classes. Rather than you being online, I've prepared this material so you can just play these slides and do the work mostly individually. So I hope that me speaking in English will also be an opportunity for you to practice listening. I will speak slowly and I hope you're able to understand. So in today's class, we'll be looking at describing processes, describing component parts, and describing a sequence of events. I have a question for you as we start. Think for a minute, in what kinds of situations are we likely to use these descriptions? Describing processes. This is for describing some actions that need to happen in order. Linking words and phrases we can use are the following: firstly, secondly, thirdly, and others: next, then, after this, finally, lastly, prior to, following, while, simultaneously, and before. Now I would like you to watch this 22-minute video which explains how to describe processes. Do concentrate. She is an excellent teacher and this will really help your English. So click on the YouTube link and watch the video. Please do that now. Secondly, we use this kind of language for describing component parts. This means for describing smaller parts of something bigger. It could be parts of a car or lectures in a course, for example. Again, I want you to watch this 10-minute video on YouTube and note the following language that's used. It consists of, it comprises of, inside, outside, beneath, above, up here, down here. Please watch the video now. Here's our next example of describing component parts, the smaller parts that make something larger. I'm going to read this example of a kettle. Yeah? A kettle is a metal container which is used for boiling water. It consists of, one of those key phrases, 4 main parts: a vessel, a lid, a spout, and a handle. So there's a summary sentence, and after the summary sentence, each part is explained. The vessel is 7 inches high. It is hollow and spherical in shape. The base is flat and circular. It has a diameter of 6 inches. On the top, that's another of those phrases you would often use to describe component parts. On the top of the vessel, there is a convex lid with a plastic knob in the middle. The lid is 5 inches in diameter. Above, again, good descriptive language. Above the lid is a curved handle which is covered with plastic at the middle part. At the side of the vessel is a conical spout for pouring water out of the vessel. A good example of describing component parts. Thirdly, describing a sequence of events, an order. This is very like describing a process. A process is something someone does, but a sequence of events may be something that just happens or happened. There was heavy rain, and then there was a flash flood, and then the houses were destroyed. That would be an example. Here are some linking words and phrases. I won't read all of these, but note before and after, next, previously, at the same time. These are very common phrases we would use when describing a sequence of events. Okay, now I would like to look at a concrete example of describing a sequence of events. I'll give you an example that I've just written from myself, and then there'll be an activity for you to do on your own or in pairs. So here it is. This morning, the first thing that I did was to wake up and have a drink of water. After this, I had a shower and made a cup of tea. English people like drinking tea. Then I sat at my desk and did three things. Firstly, I prayed, giving this new day to God. Secondly, I read from the Psalms and the Gospel, the Zabur and the Injil. And thirdly, I prayed for other people and the needs in the world. Next, my son woke up and I read stories to him while he drank milk. Then my other children woke up and we ate breakfast together. We ate cereal and toast. Following this, I took my son to school and finally came to work. I cycled my bike to the office, had another shower, and then began preparing lectures. So let's look at some of the key phrases here. This morning, the first thing, you see, it's the first thing that happens. After the first thing, you have after this. The next phrase we see is the word then. And then I did three things at my desk, and I've written them. Firstly, secondly, thirdly. So it's clear to the reader the order of events that happened. Following this, or next, my son woke up. And note this word while. That means two things are happening simultaneously at the same time. I read stories to him. Saya membaca kepada dia sambil atau sementara dia minum susu while he drank milk. And then we use this word then. It's one of the most common words in English. We have this phrase following this before we finish with finally, or you could say lastly, I came to work. So these are some of the common words and phrases we use to describe a sequence of events. Now it's your turn. I would like you to do what I just did. I want you to describe a normal day. It would be best if you could meet in pairs with your friends to do this. But if you are currently self-isolating or in lockdown, then perhaps you could phone your friend and do this via WhatsApp. Or if you really have to, you can just do it on your own in front of the mirror. But I want you to describe what happened from the moment you woke up this morning to whenever you are looking at this lecture. Try and use the following vocabulary. Firstly, secondly, then, after, and those words. And don't forget, because you are talking about something that has already happened, everything you say should be in the past tense. It's already happened. Try and do that now for 10 minutes with a friend. Now we're going to have some more fun. It's the same activity, but rather than a normal day, I want you to describe your perfect day. So ideally change pairs and describe to your friend your perfect day. Use your imagination and try and use the following vocabulary. Let me give you an example. Let's get the laser pointer working. Previously, the weather had been dreadful. It had been raining all day. But this morning, I woke up and it was a beautiful sunny day. Firstly, I looked out at the sea and the waves were perfect for surfing. Next, I got my surfboard and while I ate breakfast, I looked at the waves to see where the best place to go surfing was. After this, I picked up my board and went into the sea. and went surfing. That was a silly example of what I want you to do. Use the vocabulary in as many different ways as you can to describe your perfect day. For this next activity, I want you to read the method on the next slide. Then I want you to do 3 things. Firstly, identify all the steps of the experiment. So you'll see that the method is one continuous block of text. I want you to break it into bullet points. When is the first stage of the experiment? When is the second stage, the third stage, and so on. Next, I want you to identify those connecting words that describe the order or process. Words like then, or while, or after, or following, the ones that we're looking at today. Lastly, I want you to identify all the places where the past tense and passive construction is used. So stop the video now and read this method. Have you read the experiment on the previous slide and answered the following questions? Identify all the steps of the experiment. Note the connecting words that describe the order process. Identify all the places where past tense and passive construction is used. If not, please do that now before continuing in the presentation. So I split the continuous text into 8 different stages. I wonder if you had the same as I did. One important thing I want you to note is it is much easier to read the different stages when they are broken into bullet points like this. So when you are writing methods, think about how you are writing so that it is clear to the reader. The second thing I asked you to do was to look for those words that describe the order. So here's the first one I found, together with. That's not so much describing the order, but it is saying that 2 things are happening together. The next one I spotted was this then at the start of the second stage of the experiment. After that means that something is happening to sudetu. This process is referring to what happened, and then it says was repeated twice, 2 times. And then the final solution. So that's emphasizing this is the last step in the process. So these were the 5 words which describe the sequence of events in this experiment. Now we're looking at the past tense. I know that for some of you this is a challenge, but there are some simple tricks. So let's look through. Each of these blue boxes shows where the past tense was used. When we see the words was or were, then we are is was, were, again was, were. We know that these are all in the past tense. When we have the words is and are, that's in the present tense. We don't want to see those. The second big clue is when a verb has ed, ends in ed. Mixed, packed, laced, sealed, sieved, opened, weighed, repeated. So you can see these are all the ones that I identified in the past passive tense. I know that one of the challenges when you are learning English from Indonesia is about tenses. I understand that is a challenge. So let's have a few minutes recapping, looking back at how to use the passive voice. There's a really helpful video I've found, so please watch this short 7-minute video which explains how to use the passive voice. Please click on the link and watch it now. The third activity is about cooking your favorite food. I know that orang Padang suka sekali masakan, yeah? So hopefully you'll enjoy this activity. Firstly, I want you to think about your favorite food that your mum or dad cooks for you. Secondly, I want you to use bullet points and write the process in Indonesian. Don't worry, I'm going to explain the process for you and give you an example in a minute. Then, I want you to try and translate that process into English using bullet points. Next, remove the bullet points and add suitable connecting words to write a continuous paragraph. Lastly, change the paragraph to the passive tense. I want you to note, as I'm describing the process I want you to go through, I'm using a lot of the terms that I want to see. First, second, then, next. Lastly, because I'm describing a process, a sequence of events that I want you to do, I am using these phrases. In fact, in English, we use them all the time. But I have 2 requests. Please do not copy and paste from the internet. And secondly, please do not choose rendang. I have chosen rendang as an example. So you can choose any food you like, but I want you to write it down in your own words. Okay, stage 1. Write a recipe of your favorite food in Indonesian. In Indonesian, use your own words, please. Do not copy from the internet like me. I copied this one about how to masak rendang from the internet, but I want you to write them down in Indonesian, and I want you to work on your own. I do not want to see 2 of these that are the same. Please write on your own. The second stage is to translate from Indonesian to English. So I have an example for you here. The Indonesian is in black, kita olah dulu daging, and then I have translated it in the red. We cut the beef into cubes of the desired size. It is best not to cut the beef too small so that it does not completely disintegrate during cooking. Translate from Indonesian to English. Again, I would much prefer for you to practice translating using your own words, even if it is not perfect, rather than you just copy and paste in Google Translate. If you use Google Translate, the result will not be good and you will not learn anything. If you try in your own words, the result may still not be very good, but at least you will have learned the process and you will have thought about how to communicate in English. The third stage is to change from a series of bullet points to a continuous paragraph. And to do this, I want you to add the words in black that describe a sequence of events. So you can see them here. I added the word first. You could also write firstly, and then secondly, and then other words like while, and when, and finally, which help to order the steps in the process. Now, this might be the most difficult part of the work for you, but it is very important. It's to change into the past tense with a passive voice. And I want to see your workings in blue, like I have done. So let's give an example here. Let's get the laser pointer again. You can see it was at first it said, first cut the beef. But that sentence, the tense needs to be changed, needs to be converted to the past passive. First, the beef was cut. Again, previously it said it is best not to cut the beef too small. But because we want it in the past tense, we are converting it to not too small so that it did not, rather than does not. Again, here's an example. Second, pour the coconut milk. We cut out the word pour and replace it with second. The coconut milk was poured. You can see each of the time, every time that I convert the tense to the past tense, I write it in blue. And I want you to do exactly the same. Now, the fifth stage that I would like you to do is to add a title in English, which I've done here, How to Cook Rendang, Padang Style, and tidy up the text, but leave the colors so it looks like this. So I've deleted some of the words, but I've left the text with those colors, and I want you to do the same. I want you to write in black and red and blue, just like I've done. So today we have looked at describing processes, describing component parts, and describing a sequence of events. And hopefully you have become familiar with using firstly, secondly, thirdly, next, then, and these various terms. Now I'm going to describe to you the homework that I want you to do. So there are two pieces of homework. The first is to submit your recipes in the past tense. I want you to submit all 5 stages of the process. So the original recipe in Indonesian, your translation, using the colors I request. Okay, I'm not expecting perfection. I do not want to see 2 identical or nearly identical pieces of work. I will fail you if you plagiarize. Okay? Jadi biar jelas, saya mau lihat semua tahap dari proses ini. Dari bahasa Indonesia, dari terjemahan ke bahasa Inggris, kemudian kata-kata penyambung, ya, pertama, kedua, ketiga, akhirnya, sesudah, sebelum. Kemudian tolong pakai warna-warna itu. Merah, hitam, dan biru. Sesuai dengan saya buat tadi. Ini tidak harus sempurna. Tidak harus sempurna. Coba sebagus mungkin. Dan yang sangat-sangat penting, saya tidak mau lihat 2 PR yang sama. Kalau begitu, mohon maaf, tapi saya tidak segan, kamu akan gagal. Ya, saya tidak suka plagiarism. Nah, homework kedua begini. Tolong baca about rice milling. And then I want you to write a paragraph of approximately 150 words explaining the rice milling process and using the vocabulary we have learned today. Write in either the present or past tense, but be consistent. Jadi semua PR ini bisa dikirim ke email saya yang saya akan beritahu ke wakil kelas. Kalau ada yang kurang jelas, tolong minta penjelasan dari wakil kelas. Terima kasih dan selamat bekerja semua.